Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the government operations meeting for Monday, September 15th, 2025. Start with public comment. Anybody in the queue?
Negative.
Okay. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the August meeting.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay. Item 4, discussion of solar energy. Please, Ray and Mona will start us off.
As you can see, we have one item tonight because solar energy is very complicated. So we're just gonna rush through our existing solar farm. We have a 3-megawatt solar farm out in down by the pit area off of Old Forge Road. It generates 1 megabyte per block. We have 3 blocks. In each block, we have allocated several different accounts, municipal accounts, facilities that utilize the energy from each block. And I believe we have maybe 30 some odd accounts, ish, around that, somewhere around that number. If you read through the documents we gave to you, the first part, the net metering basics, how that kind of works, virtual net metering, and the credits that we are able to accumulate based on the energy not utilized but produced, and they tend to collect credits that theoretically the town can utilize to offset our utility bills for these accounts that we've allocated to these 3 blocks of solar farm panels. So the first part of this is basically the net metering and the allocation and adding rooftop solar and how that will impact the Tesla contract we have. And the second part are the financials, the credits, the allocations, which Mona will get into very shortly. So our purchase power agreement with now Tesla requires the town to purchase all the energy produced by this facility, regardless of whether or not we can use all of the energy or not, whether we can use all the credits or not. Theoretically, we save utilizing Eversource direct power by utilizing the power generated by the facility, and we build credits. There is a cap to these credits. We are capped at $220,000 per year, and these credits do expire. We are not allowed to sell credits in the open market. We can sell them to Eversource or maybe another utility if we wanted to sell, and if there was a buyer out there willing to buy credits. I'm not sure how that mechanism works yet. We are in the process of trying to contact Tesla. We had an original account rep back in 2015. She had moved on. I reached out to her, hoping that she will put me in touch with another rep where we can talk about possibly amending our purchase power agreement or coming up with maybe a different solution on how to allocate and utilize these credits more efficiently and effectively. Let's say, so by adding a rooftop solar on any building in town, let's say on the high school, all the schools, that will not really impact our agreement with Tesla because we still have to buy all the power, but we'll be less reliant on that power generated by Tesla, thereby exasperating the issue of credits being built up that we can't use. So we need to be careful right now about adding additional solar panels to different municipal accounts or municipal facilities and buildings until we really get a handle on how that will impact us. Right now, it will impact us, we think, by utilizing less power generated by the solar farm and not helping us in that aspect by by adding credits that we cannot use at this point.
So just as a backdrop, is every town building connected to the solar farm? And are we producing more solar power than the town can use?
You want to segue into me? Yeah.
We're not utilizing
Hmm?
all, we utilize more power than the farm produces.
Okay,
Mona, why don't you jump in now? The last page is Mona's accounting of the credits.
So yes, as Ray said, we definitely are using more than what is being generated. The problem, and I really tried to keep it simple and give you a highlight of how we are learning to work with it, but it's not perfect yet. So what happens we've got, as I show you here, you've got 40 electric accounts between the town and the Board of Ed, 35 of them being us, 5 being the Board of Ed. We've got anything from, a park that has a lamp out in the corner. So we've got some that are very small, not using a lot. We definitely have more accounts. The way this has been set up is that there are 3 blocks that are going to get the credits for usage, not necessarily who's using it all, who's going to get the credit for it. So, and with each block, you can have 5 accounts. Originally, those accounts were predetermined, and I may go into this in more detail than we need, but I think it's important to know how it functions. So as Ray was saying, that each block has $220,000, and that's the cap. So even if we're using greater than that, that is going to be the cap of the credit. Not such a bad thing, and it's getting at 14 cents per kilowatt hour. What happens on the opposite side, as these credits are occurring against these 15 pre-chosen accounts, the invoice is coming in from the different vendor, being Tesla, for about 500,000 for the year. This is because they are charging us for that 11 cents per kilowatt hour that they're creating. As we were going on through time, we first started getting our credits back in 2018. I think we signed the contract 2016, but we were starting to see the actual operations happening. And the first couple of years, nothing was looking too concerning. But you can see around July of 21, this was the first indication that something wasn't fitting. And we had 2 of our accounts that were town accounts come up with a credit of 150,000. The initial thought was, well, look, I've got 40 accounts, 150,000. I'm just going to total it all up and net it together. That wasn't an option. So that was the first sign of frustration. So you still have other the 40 accounts getting bills, but you couldn't take the one that had a credit and transfer it or net it together as a town. So what we had done, we found we could have an option of changing the distribution on those. So we had those same 15 accounts, right? 3 blocks, 5 accounts on each one, and started adjusting the percentage. For example, we had for the town hall, perhaps was about 50% of one block. The high school was 50% of another, and then you'd see it being shared over some smaller accounts. So I was starting to adjust percentages. Like, what if I put 70% for a school that's not on yet? So those are the processes that we're going through, is just how do we get these accounts that have accumulated such a high credit to start using its credit and then redirect the credits to an account that could use it. So that became a continuing process. Complication that came in down on that 7/1 of 22, which was good for the Board of Ed. They went on with a new supplier. They went with, I think it was Engie, and got 7 cents per kilowatt hour, which was wonderful for them. But if you see what happened to our bills overall, so by the July 23, Now the Board of Ed accounts were starting to show a massive credit that was building on the accounts that they had of the 3 blocks of 5 accounts each. They had a couple accounts there. And the town ones continued that basically every account that was on the 15 chosen now accumulated to another 250. We at one point had about over 400,000 in credits. We did not, or still are not, offered the opportunity to say, I've got 400,000 Eversource, can I please get a check? They allow that once per year, but you can't get the credit off of the individual, like the town hall bill or the police department bill. What you have to do is find the transferring, there's actually an in-between bill, was the credit arrives from the solar company and gets transferred out. If they leave a piece of it, and it usually may happen when you capped out, you can take a piece of that. We were actually able to cash in for 80,000 on that. Hard to catch it. It transfers in and out. You've got to see it within days, and we've been monitoring that. I suppose the better side of it, well, I also note that we did the reverse auction, so we have a lower rate too. We didn't get as good as Board of Ed, but we got 9.6 cents per kilowatt hour. Again, that's lowering our bill, which is great, but it's still creating that excess credits that are laying out there. What did work in our favor, and even though I think they had insisted, Eversource was insisting that it wasn't an option, but it works, that we did the RLE, the $2 million chillers and mechanicals and so forth over the 6 years. That actual charge, if we put a boiler on the police department, that goes on the police department's bill, and now that's starting to pick up and absorb some of that credit. So that's probably the best thing that's happened for a lot of reasons. The long story short, if you look at where we are closing out this fiscal year, we only had $40,000 as unusable credit. And a lot of that, poor choice of words, a lot of the credit is due to the fact that RLE is going to the Eversource bill. So that's going to work in our favor. We've got 5 more years of that. It will help. So I think if we did something like solar, anything extra solar, better rates, at least for the next 5 years, we could probably handle this, the excess credits. Myself, my staff, we monitor these bills probably more thoroughly than we'd like to think. We're looking at them on a monthly basis, and twice a year, Eversource allows us to adjust our percentages. Which accounts can we put in the 15, the 5 on each block? So which accounts we use, as well as the distribution of the percentage. I've found, for example, the streetlights, which is a really large account for us, and I've got them taking like 75% of one block, which is almost giving us streetlights for free. But the problem is that bill that's coming from Tesla is basically like another 200,000. So you still have to pay for the block. So long-winded story. I wanted to give you kind of the flow, and I'm sure there's questions, but yeah, I think we're getting a better handle.
So just to back up just for understanding, so Tesla as a solar provider charges us a per kilowatt hour charge. Did we not pay to put the solar farm up? Do we have any expenditure to put the solar farm up initially?
No,
So that's in lieu of that, they charge us 11 cents per kilowatt hour.
and they pay us 90,000 a year in a rent for the lease of the property.
How much, Ray? Because I thought it was 60,
90.
90?
90, yes, that's in
Okay,
the
all
general fund revenue. Mhm.
Okay, so but now if we find electricity cheaper than 11 cents per kilowatt hour, we're still creating all this electricity, which is creating all these credits. RLE is going to kind of take care of that for the time being, but in theory, once the hourly charges are done in 5 years from now, let's say, then we're gonna have a bunch of credits we're not gonna have anything to do with.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
So probably creating more solar energy is probably not, unless you can redo the agreement to some extent, doesn't seem to make sense. Is that correct?
Yeah, hopefully if we could do something with changing the agreement, if you could have more than 5 accounts on a block, or, if there was actually a way that you could cash in these credits
Yeah,
or net them together, some
Right.
kind of agreement would be great.
yeah, we need to also, in addition to trying to get a hold of Tesla, which I don't know if that's gonna work out anyway. We need to work with Eversource. We do have a contact. We have worked with them several times in the past, so we're hitting them up again for another meeting to try to figure out this account allocation for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd say if we had to say what the problem was, it's not a solar Tesla problem. It's definitely an Eversource problem on the way this is set up. The restrictions are so tight that it just doesn't allow you to function.
Well, but there's also the issue that their Tesla's charging us more per kilowatt hour than we can buy power on the outside for. So
Mhm.
if we were to get Tesla to drop their price
Yeah.
in the
Oh.
per kilowatt hour, then that would help too.
Yes.
That would help, but I don't see that happening. I mean, we will ask, but yeah,
I mean, I guess there's really I don't think there's any incentive for them to do that. When does the contract end, with Tesla? Probably long term.
yeah, it's a 20-year. I think the facility was energized, I believe, in 2018.
Right.
So 38.
Okay, so we got a while.
I'm sure we can try and negotiate.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just don't know if they have any incentive to want to negotiate. I mean, I don't know what did it for them.
Well, I think for us to better understand, Mona, is it possible I'm just thinking back 10 years before this was online. Is it possible to show the 35 accounts for municipal where it was in 2015 and then each year what the expenditures were to now? Like in 2015,
Oh, I'm sure it's
account
possible.
12 was
Yeah.
20,000 and then
Mhm.
now it's 5,000 or whatever because of the credits.
Yeah, and I think it would help to, I'd say the answer is yes. I mean, that might be kind of an ugly thing. This is probably the highest level look at it. You would probably see, at least the 10 town accounts, the Board of Ed ones. We didn't get their invoicing until it started looking like they had a problem, so we may not have the original. They started giving us copies of their invoices around like 2023, when they realized that their credits had become an issue too. So I think for us, we could definitely identify those 10 accounts that started to go a bit haywire. Mhm.
What about a net, like all the accounts, like 35 municipal accounts? What's the net effect of all 35? Did we pay in like 2016, did we pay $150,000 and then 2017 it was 200,000 and then it started getting lower because of the solar? That's what I guess we can
Sure.
combine all of them into
Mhm.
what your net
Yeah.
check was to Eversource.
Yes, I could definitely show you that. Mhm.
Okay. The other thing was, we're having all these talks about efficiency and everything. Why wouldn't the Board of Ed, your counterpart there, reach out to you and say, hey, we found a better deal at 7 cents. Are you interested too?
That would have been a good question, but I think at that point in time, there wasn't that as much of the rapport that we have now. I think we're very close and hand in hand, and I think they had that rate. I do believe also that that was only available to education.
Oh, okay.
We've
All right.
gone through a different avenue that we could not have participated in either.
Okay. And then finally, with the federal budget having been passed and solar and wind being cut for subsidies, I was dealing with a solar company on a commercial site, and they were saying as long as it's installed by October of 2026, you're still eligible for rebates. If there's an account of the 35 accounts, or even with Board of Ed, one of their larger accounts, if there's an account that's not benefiting from the solar farm, could we look at maybe one of the buildings to put up solar panels that would draw just for that account?
I'd say at this point, we don't have any substantial accounts that, that are not participating. I have tagged in, and if you follow the timeline, I have now tagged in all 5 schools. I think to the point that I think they went out a little bit. I'll give you a note on that one, because they can get, if I put them on the block, they get the credit. What they don't get is the Tesla bill. So we become like at year end saying, I paid Tesla 500,000, you should pick up a third or a tenth or a something. So they're probably swimming in credits and have a nice low electric bill. Otherwise, I think I'm actually struggling to find town accounts other than those that are on there that actually have substantial usage. I've got town hall, police department, all of the fire departments, the library. So we've got all of those, and then I picked up Elmridge Park, Maxwell Park, and I think a couple of tiny others, as well as streetlights. So we've really put all of them on there.
Initially, we had to identify the largest users. When we first got into this back in 2015, and Mona just listed them all. So we were required to utilize those accounts.
Well, and the other thing I would think is you put things on there like streetlights, because those only work when the sun's not out. So we need to draw on Eversource. So we want to use our credits against that versus a building that's basically open during business hours, which gets, generally speaking, will get sun during the day and power itself. So there's a little bit of strategy as far as what things went just based on the time of day, their hour too, right?
Yeah, like I said, right now the strategy is to apply it to a bill that is not completely into the negative credit mode, and we're running out of those options. The best thing that has happened, I mentioned, is when you've got RLE that's adding on charges and then it's starting to absorb it. So hopefully once we see that, we may be able to find maybe a couple of accounts that are town that aren't streetlights that might be able to take advantage of something solar.
Wasn't there another option too? I wish I had my paperwork on that other project I was doing. It was at the end of the year, if you had, I mean, to your example, if there was, 450,000 in credit, Eversource would buy it back at a lower rate, like, 5 cents, for example, per kilowatt. Was that ever?
I'd love it if it existed, but I don't know. Do you remember anything on that? It's definitely not the options that we have.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure if that was something that.
John, you saying for cash, you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Because at the end of the year, they're kind of looking at like, oh, you're not going to be using it. So we'll give you the cash at like half the kilowatt charge.
That might be an option. I'm looking at some of the information that I had some research done. And it does say expressly for these solar farms, facilities that were approved during the time we got ours approved back in the 2015s. That's called the old program. We were only able to sell it to a utility company, which is Eversource, the additional credit. So we will be contacting Eversource, and that question will be one of the first ones that I ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get a clarification on one thing? John brought it up. We pay 90,000 a year, and how long do we pay that for? The first 5?
They're paying us.
Pay us.
We have a revenue source of 90,000 per year.
Tesla,
And-
they lease our property for 90,000 a year.
Okay. And the infrastructure, we paid nothing to get this, so that's why we're paying back the kilowatts?
We're paying back the kilowatts because that's.
No, yeah, well, to deliver it, but
But there's no other,
Right,
the town did not incur any other expenditures, right?
We did not incur any other expenditures except for legal counsel to review the contracts.
And that 90,000 is for 20 years?
Yes, or longer if we want to extend the contracts.
Correct, okay. Yeah, I think John had a good idea in getting those numbers from prior years to see what the difference was.
Mhm.
And as Jeff said, if we don't have somebody to use it and we don't have a viable way of getting compensated for the extra production, then why would we do others?
Or if we get Tesla to drop their
Mhm.
per kilowatt hour rate. So it makes sense for us to use that versus going on the open market to get cheaper.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But again, I don't know why, if I was Tesla, I don't know why I would do that. If I'm getting a rate, I can get locked in a rate that's higher than the market. Why am I gonna negotiate myself out of that?
You know,
So,
yeah, not until 2035, Jeff, you're right.
yeah.
now you bet if rates go sky high, then they're gonna all of a sudden come to us, hey, come, but.
Mhm.
All right, so I guess at the end of the day, the idea is we're gonna get some more information about our usage, but it's looking like unless there's something changes through a negotiation of our contract with like Eversource, the way to use the credits or now how to allocate the credits, there's probably, it doesn't like there's much we can do.
Yeah, and we're supposed to be meeting soon on that, at
Okay.
least to start some of the conversations.
Any other questions?
No, I
I'm
would
good.
just, yeah, the only thing I would say is I would just keep in mind that urgency if there is an opportunity after negotiations to put some panels on a school, that we are under the gun timeline wise for incentives and rebates.
Okay.
October 2026.
About a year, okay. Any other business correspondence? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Alrighty.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you in
Yeah.
5 hours. Bye-bye.
yeah.